Hello, I'm James Toy, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for KCRAR. You're about to watch one of our candidate interviews, an unfiltered, front row look at how those seeking office approach the issues that shape private property rights and the real estate industry as a whole. We share these conversations publicly so you can hear directly from the candidates, understand their positions in their words, and cast your vote with confidence.
Well, good morning, Tony. Appreciate you
Morning.
making the time to be with us on a Friday, no less. I know we've gone back and forth a little via email, but again, I'm James Toy. I'm the SVP of Government Affairs for the Kansas City Regional Association of Realtors, and I am joined by my friend and colleague Jeff Carson. And Jeff, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, James. Tony, I'm Jeff Carson. I'm the Director of Realtor Advocacy for KCRAR, and I'm also a practicing realtor. So
Oh,
I come
wow.
at this from a little bit of a different angle. And just for further context, I'm also the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Unified Government of Kansas
Oh,
City,
wow.
Kansas. So
Okay.
wear a few different hats.
Yes.
So Jeff clearly does not have much free time, but we're only so interesting. We're really more interested in hearing more about you. So Tony, if you could tell
Okay.
us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Jackson County.
Well, so I served 2 terms, and during that time, it was truly a joy and an honor. And it might not be to everybody, but I had land use as a committee, and it was something that I really enjoyed because it made sense. We had requests from people to rezone these tracts of land. And by the way, this is only in unincorporated areas, right? So it's not like I was doing anything inside of these city limits. But for these unincorporated areas, it was important that they had somebody who'd be willing to actually come out there, look, or in the alternative, because I've been here since 1985. I pretty much have either ridden on my bicycle or walked or driven every road in this county, I feel like. So I'm familiar. I try to have a good idea, what I'm working on. And I always just tried to be fair and accessible and all those things, and just tried to be a voice of reason in a tumultuous environment. And sometimes I wonder exactly, yeah, why am I doing this? It's not been pleasant the last few years, but I think it's important. Basically, not to bother you too much with this, but so I was beat in my last election, and just kind of retired from public life, I guess, if you will. I mean, I was still around and still talk to constituents who I wasn't even representing anymore, but just kind of took a break, and then um, had some health issues at the age of 49, and made it through that last year. It was an interesting time, to say the least, but I'm here now and I'm well. And this spring, when the opportunity presented itself, we had moved into a different home with our daughters. And so therefore I was in a new district. So when I looked to figure out, okay, who are my representatives? What district am I in? I thought, hey, this is a real opportunity. The district number 3 covers most of Independence, if not all of it, I mean, just a few exceptions. But I'm from Independence. I currently live in Lee Summit, but Lee Summit and Independence are the districts. So um, the only complaint was from my parents, who live about a quarter of a mile on the wrong side of the dividing line of my district. So they said they can't help me. But in any event, I'm very comfortable in this community, um, having grown up here, and just am blessed to have a lot of good people who are helping me from both sides of the aisle. So I think I can bring people together to try to work on dealing with this dysfunction that you currently see. Just try to bring more professional type governance and work out differences collaboratively behind the scenes if possible, and try to make televised meetings less exciting. So
Well, that is
hopefully
a
this is
noble
kind of
goal.
okay. So hopefully that's I'm not great on social media. I'm not trying to get clicks. So that's, if we can make people's lives easier, particularly the folks who are just trying to do development and just rezone their plot of land so they can have a bigger outbuilding or garage or something. I mean, that's mostly what I worked on, and that in parks. So hopefully
Well,
that
thank
gives
you
us
so
some.
much for the intro. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear that you do have a background in land use. You've had that experience. Could you maybe speak a little bit more to that, specifically on the housing side? What kind of accomplishments or maybe achievements you had
Yeah.
during your previous tenure?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's unincorporated areas only. So, I generally tried to approach it from, I tried to give gave every hearing a fair, every proposed uh, project a fair shake. And I think I was saying in my questionnaire that really the only things that we didn't end up passing, they were pretty rare, but it was just basically things that were either dangerous in terms of site distances for easements for driveways, or oh, I want to put in this huge development but I have no infrastructure for it. Yeah, there's not a lot of infrastructure out in unincorporated areas, but if we work collaboratively and we can figure out how to get a road put in, and we can get all the financing figured out, and we can do all those things, then we're more apt to be able to approve things. But most of the time, we were just helping people who, they wanted to take 10 acres and turn it into 5 2-acre plots, or uh, what have you. And frankly, I worked very well with a guy named Randy Deal. Randy is the go-to guy at the county. It's hard to believe that there's really just one of him. But he's the guy who would go out and kind of do the legwork, look at the application for a zoning change, and then brief me on it. And then I'd go take a look. And basically, I wish I had an exciting list of things that we approved, but it was really pretty business. It was just business as usual, kind of, or at least that's how I tried to keep it. Everything from a filling station between the east and westbound 40 highway at Woods Chapel, um, approving that, or um, yeah, letting somebody who wants to develop 10 acres into 5 2-acre pieces, or
Mhm.
what have you. It was just that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Smaller scale.
Yes, yeah. I mean, look, I do not envy the folks at City Hall and Lee Summit right now with this thousands of acres of things that they are having to carefully plan and develop, or those things. That's a different thing altogether. And then the consequences of their choices are it's a lot different. Now, as it comes to the county right now, some of the I don't currently don't have anything to do with it just because I'm not elected, but watching and carefully watching how they're trying to put for example, a battery power storage center out in Sibley.
We just did one. We just did one in Wyandotte County.
Yeah, right. And so, for better or worse, there's a lot of public engagement. And um, so right now, I think it's kind of they're in an information gathering um, time. And there's, sometimes the loudest people might not be actually the most numerous or accurate reflection of what the public actually wants. So we've just got to be
Yeah.
careful that we don't just succumb to people with torches and pitchforks. We just need to listen and thoughtfully read the proposals.
You've described my life.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
having just gone through one of those, yeah, that
Okay.
was pretty contentious, and we saw it several times because it went to the commission, then it was referred back to us for more information,
Oh my
additional
God.
meetings, and then it was we in our case we actually denied the proposal or denied
Mm,
the recommendation, but then the commission overrode it and approved it.
right.
So it
And
was
that's always frustrating, isn't it? Because like when I worked on the drug commission, we would go through very thoughtful hearings and we'd follow processes to try to reach good results. And then we would make these recommendations with detailed findings. And then the legislative body above us would just do whatever they wanted, which they certainly had the right to. But it is frustrating because there should be value on expertise, knowledge, experience, those types of things.
as long as we do not get bogged down, as long as the committee that you sit on, that I sit on, do not get bogged down with some of that and focus on the case and the factors to be considered
Yeah.
versus the chirping in your ears. Because in that particular case, I was perfectly fine with it, but chairman doesn't vote unless there's a tie or my vote's needed to either move or stop something from moving forward. And so anyway,
Oh my God.
I was okay with the eventual outcome because I saw the benefit, you know, and also being a practicing realtor, when you have people that live on large plots of ground or across from large plots of ground, people buy those because they like the views and things like that. I always tell them, just enjoy it while you have it, because when there's 100 acres or 500 acres or things like that, it's going to be a target for something. It's going to be a target for something big. So it doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. And
Right.
you need to reconcile yourself with the fact that the view is the view as long as you have it.
Yeah, I think that's what people are experiencing out here in Lee's Summit. There was a proposal to put up a big inflatable dome over a soccer field or something, and people lost their minds. And candidly, I have no idea what happened to it, but you know, these project plans have been on file forever.
Yeah.
So I thankfully, I mean, where I'm talking to you from right now, I'm in my home office, and the place that we picked, you know, I would like to believe is going to be just like this as long as I'm here, because I picked a place that's up against an easement that is just a utility easement that's wooded. There's deer, those types of things. But in my old place, there was some ambiguity because there was some public land behind it, and people talked about doing this, that, and the other with it. And that was just kind of part of my analysis.
What's that address? That sounds like a perfect spot for a landfill. Let me write that address down.
Oh my God. Well, it's
Here we
funny.
go. See?
Well, it's funny you say that because I grew up at Baker Road and Hines Road in Independence. It's an
Mhm.
Independence mailing address, but it was at large, or sorry, it was
County.
unincorporated
Yep.
county. And when I grew up, it was just woods where I hunted, rabbits and, played as a kid and did my thing. But then now here I am 50 years old, and it is a mountain of trash over there. I mean, it is something, that landfill near the Twin Drive-In over there. It's something. I mean, they really did change the landscape, and um,
Well,
you know,
pardon me for picking the wrong subject to tease you on.
no, no, no. Hey, you know what? I'm not mad at anybody. I just said to my mom and dad, I was like, can we please find you another place? And they said, nope, we love our home. We just want to stay here, and this is what we want. I said, well, as long as we're not concerned about the health implications. That my dad's like, look, I'm in my mid 70s. I don't care. I'm like, okay.
My father-in-law said something's got to get you.
Right, right, right.
Well, James, you want to start us off with some questions?
Yeah,
Because
I would love
I think
to.
Tony and I could do this all day.
Sure.
That was great banter. Tony, you seem to have a really good baseline knowledge based on your previous experience and your long-term residency in the county as far as what housing looks like writ large. So, in
Yeah.
your perspective, looking forward, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing residents in terms of housing, and what do you think the county can do to address them?
Well, unfortunately, I don't want to talk myself out of your help or your support, but you know, other than kind of doing what we're doing, the county does have a more limited view. I feel like if you were interviewing a Lee's Summit City Council person, that would be a very different conversation. And then, you know, also looking at who has for example, a lot of candidates want to talk about uh, federal funding for housing. Well, the county is not the conduit for housing money from the feds. So it's like making promises like that is really kind of disingenuous. Um, Now, just thinking greater over things that I don't even have control over. Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely, at least out east, there's a need for, single family homes and things that are more affordable. Um, the Like the restrictions that Kansas City puts on builders. I mean, I don't even think we need to talk more about it. I think we all know that if it costs $30,000 more for a builder to build a home in Kansas City proper well, where do you think they're going to build? Not there. They're going to build somewhere else. So, so I'm just trying to think like at the county, if we, because we really, the land that we have that is not, with a few exceptions, the land that we hold is really public parks, and I probably would be against, making them not parks. But as far as there's going to be a press conference that the county executive either is doing or had or just did about the McCune home. And I believe it was like 10 years ago. I think it was Whitney Kerr came in and had a plan, and there's other people who presented plans to the then administration. But that might be an opportunity for housing development, that land off of 24 Highway where the McCune School is. So if there's a way to encourage, at the time there was a conversation about working with the public library to have them take over part of the site and have a library and kind of a services center, for lack of a better term, where you could pay, maybe, I don't know, pay your taxes and go to the library and do different things that would better serve those people out east. And at the time, Fort Osage had talked about putting some of their administration there, and then as it relates to housing, then it would free up the rest of that land maybe for some adjacent housing. The Shrout Dairy is one of the oldest parcels in the county. It's been in that family forever. And that was also looked at as a possible housing. And it was Summit Homes, I think, who was behind it at the time. And so, no, I mean, I think there's been all kinds of plans presented, and I don't know if it was market factors or what that got in the way of it moving forward. But there is some opportunity along that Little Blue Valley corridor there. So
Sure.
I hope I answered you. I because we're not the conduit for housing, federal housing or public housing or whatever, that's not all I can do. Probably is encourage, divesting ourselves of that McCune place and allowing it to be developed to the extent that we're in charge of zoning it, and then listening to other proposals and just working to, like in a business-like manner, to approve projects that work their way through the process.
No, I think that is a very fair statement. I appreciate that, and certainly I'd be cautious about maybe going the green space route for housing. You talk about having people show up with pitchforks to your meetings. I think that is one
Yeah.
fast track way to get that accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting, are they, it's always interesting when people are faced with, everybody would like to keep that field behind the house. I get it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, this conversation that we're having may be moot because, like I said, the county executive currently has some plan for McCune, and I haven't been briefed. I mean, I haven't read it. I don't think it's been publicly. Maybe June 2nd or something. He's going to do that press release. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
certainly have to keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, it's a chunk of land. I mean, if you look where 24 Highway meets Little Blue Parkway, there's a lot of opportunity there, and that whole Shrout Ranch that can be developed. And then there's always been a plan to take the Little Blue, once they get done doing that down by the data center, and then North Point was doing that series of mass scale warehouse operations along there. So what I had been told by the last administration was that they were going to extend Little Blue Parkway all the way up to like the 291 River Bridge back in there. But they weren't going to do it until they got those big construction equipment pieces. They wanted to develop it, tear up the road, and then fix it and then extend it. So that's
Well,
kind of
Kind of a segue into one of the questions I had for you was talking about economic development, and you
Yeah.
mentioned Lee's Summit, and they've seen a lot of growth. But economic development is obviously uh, important to create a thriving community. What's your vision for attracting new employers, supporting the existing businesses you all already have, and fostering long-term economic growth in Jackson County?
So once again, the scope of what we would have a say in would be limited. It'd be easy to make promises and to make general statements about things we have no say over. But I can give you an example of something that we did have say in, and that was working on through the land use committee and through parks, trying to. I had been to Dallas, Texas, and I'd seen the Katy Trail, and the Katy Trail Ice House was like a restaurant and venue down there along the trail. It had an impact on me. I was there in the middle of the day, and there was just people walking dogs, riding bikes, just families walking, people doing things, and then having these businesses that were facing the trail. That was kind of part of the vision that I had, at least as it relates to county land or county adjacent land, moving right through the central part of the county, between Lee's Summit and the stadium. And I think I mentioned in my questionnaire that we even rezoned the area around the stadium to try to encourage that kind of development. But because of the terms of the lease, I guess the leaseholders stopped that. There was one prime example of a big fail of how government could do it differently, and that was the Crane Brewing Company failure. Michael Crane had put in the Crane Brewing Company right there, and I wanted to help support him. He didn't even own the parking lot in front of the business. That was kind of a park county held piece. And the rub was he couldn't get the city of Raytown to give him a variance to his parking situation so that he could get an occupancy permit for a kitchen. So here's Tyler Harp with Harp Barbecue wanting to cook there and wanting to serve people there, but having to do it out of the garage because he couldn't get like an occupancy permit for the kitchen. This all seems like basic stuff. You talk to the people there in Raytown and you're like, hey, can we get a variance for these folks to try to keep this business alive? Because if you don't, it's gonna die. And so between the county not paving the freaking parking lot that this guy did not own, and the city keeping him from having the restaurant, he folded his tent. He had to go. I mean, he just couldn't make it. So I would try to do things differently, to the extent that I had, a willing executive and, good partners at the municipal level too. That's just one example through that corridor. Um, Out east, I think there's currently some stuff going on, using TTD, that is what transportation district, to um, having the county participate with private stakeholders, for example, to put in an overpass out on I-70,
Mhm.
to create more ingress and egress, and then by doing that, make that land around it more apt to be, um, truck stops, businesses, things like that. So, yeah, that's the kind. I mean, I'm always open to listen, um, and then my ability to vote on TIFs or something like that really isn't existent. It's just mainly the things that I could do would be to just be a good partner, as far as the zoning needs.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, Tony, you touched a little bit on infrastructure just now, so I do want to
Mhm.
ask you a question in that vein.
Mhm.
Certainly, with increased residential interest and commercial interest, all of that brings additional wear and tear, strain
Mhm.
on your infrastructure, whether
Yep.
that's stormwater, sewer, traditional roads and bridges, you name it, more cars on the road, more individuals, all
Yep.
those resources get used faster. Do
Mhm.
you have any sort of plan or concept about how the county can keep pace with the current rate of growth and if there's maybe additional funding strategies out there?
Oh my gosh. So I'm giving a speech tonight where I'm going to talk about the ABCs. So the A being assessments, B being budget, and C being charter review or charter reform. And so I think and this isn't really what you were asking about, but it's kind of the foundation of everything, is we've got to get assessments right so that our stakeholders will have proper data to set their levies and then to do their budgeting, to know. So the city of Lee Summit's going to know what to budget on, or the city of Independence, so that then they can make decisions about green lighting a project and putting in those sidewalks and putting in the sewer, So I think it starts with something as basic as just us doing our job. And then budget wise, with this whole prospect of having to deal with the overpayment of taxes that were collected unlawfully and how to deal with that moving forward, that's going to have real impacts on budgets. And I, due to that malfeasance of the previous administration and the way they handled it, and this is not just my opinion, this is the state auditor, and this is the state tax commission, and this is the judge in the case. It has a ripple effect. So because they didn't do this right, the ripples go out, and once again, it impacts these local jurisdictions' abilities to budget for these infrastructure pieces. If it's going to come out of normal budgeting, there's always, I guess, these different financing schemes that they come up with to get projects done. But I probably did a terrible job of answering this question for you.
No, no, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm picking up here is you just want to get back to basics, making sure that your assessments are up to snuff and
Yeah.
everything's above board.
Well, yeah. And one thing I always talk about is it relates to budget and things. So it starts with assessments, and then proper assessments and data leads to proper budgeting for everybody, whether it's the county or the people that rely on our numbers. Now, granted, as a legislator, I'm not going to stand in front of people and lie to them and say that I control assessments. No, that's not how it works. That's an executive function. And then hopefully very soon it'll be an elected, independently elected charter level officer who handles the assessments. But our job as legislators, I think, is to work with them collaboratively to rebuild that assessment office, and not just rely on 100%, outside people staffing that, and then really getting down to accountability. And even if I was in the minority, let's say I didn't even have a 5-vote majority to work with, I would need to continue to advocate about these things and make it a point every week to talk about it and to shine light on it, and keep it top of mind that there's core things that we have to do per our charter, assessment being one of them. And we've got to do those things right before we worry about doing all this other stuff that we want to do and all these other tangential projects and things that people want to do that are more attention grabbing. I use the analogy that it's like plowing a field a mile wide and an inch deep. If you have mission creep and you're trying to do too many things poorly, instead of focusing on the things we need to be doing, which taxes and zoning and those types of things, I think, are the most impactful. And just creating an environment that is predictable. People don't want to do business somewhere or do transactions when they are. I've heard about these horror stories where people wanted to buy a piece of real estate for business, and then the deal gets turned upside down when they see some projected numbers that were that they didn't know about beforehand. So if we can just make things more predictable.
No, appreciate that answer. You certainly answered my question, and it seems like you have a big focus on getting back to core concepts and the core roles of the county.
Yeah. I'm trying to be not necessarily apolitical, but this shouldn't be political. Like this, these are just common sense conversations about how to do business and how to just deliver services. I know there's a whole cadre of people who want to talk about their labels and really hammer on that kind of thing. And what I think people really want is people who are more practical, who have common sense and can do the job.
I think that's a point well made.
Yeah.
Jeff, would you like to bring us home with our final
Sure.
question?
Well, real quick, Tony, realtors are in people's living rooms every day, so nobody really has a pulse, probably more so on what they're thinking, what they're feeling, why they're moving than realtors. Why should the realtor support you for what makes you the choice for the realtors to support?
Well, I'll be accessible. I was accessible. I'm someone who's been battle tested. I'll be ready to work on day one. Um, I think I have a good relationship with the people in my community. And I'm always, like I said, I'm always accessible. I have the knowledge, I have the experience, and I have a passion for it. So I'd be honored to have your members' support. And I can't promise that everyone will always like every answer I give, but I will do my best to be thoughtful and listen and be deliberative and try to make good choices.
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tony, we very much appreciate your time on a Friday, no less. Certainly,
No problem.
we know that you're a busy guy. You're out there knocking on doors, hitting the
Well,
campaign trail. So truly appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us this morning. Any questions we can answer for you before we wrap up?
no, I appreciate the opportunity. And the one story I forgot to tell is I do have a particular um, affinity for my realtor. His name's Aaron Potter,
Mhm.
and he sold my house in 8 hours, I think, for over asking, and then bought me this house, you know, in a magical way, and it was all good communication, collaborative. Um, whatever his fee was worth every penny. I mean, it was great. And the reason why I used him is I had a relationship with him. He and other realtors went out of their way during this tax nightmare to help people in the community for no fee. He just went out and told the community that I live in that if you have a problem with your tax situation and you want to appeal it, let me look at it and I will I'll write you an opinion letter. I can't tell you what it's going to be. I'm going to look at the comps. I'm going to give a number that I think is fair, and you can use it if you want. So he did that for me. And I had to appeal my parents' property being doubled between 2019 and 2023. And the letter that he crafted, I took as one of my exhibits into an informal hearing and got my parents taken care of.
Very good.
So what you guys do is important. And much like my business, I'm an attorney, have a small firm that I run, and no one's ever happy to pay our fees, but they're always grateful for the work, it seems like. So
Well, very much appreciate you sharing that story. That's really good to hear. It's always nice to hear about how realtors are so involved in the community, and
oh, absolutely.
certainly
There.
we'll be in touch with you here soon. And if you don't have any other questions, we'll just wish you a good Friday and good
Yeah,
luck on
you
the campaign
too.
trail.
All right, I'm going to pick up my sign order here in a little bit. So
There you go.
There you go.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Take care, guys. Okay.